Kowalski from Nebraska, howdy, a majority report. Great discussion on safe injection sites. I got into quite the argument in the co-op group chat with an individual that was very much against safe injection sites because his sources, which were all from a Catholic church-funded think tank, said that it increased drug use, crime, death, and lowered property values. Oh, the property values. I mean, that's by the way the same
I
argument
gotta throw that in there.
that people made about, putting public housing in, a place like Yonkers, for example, as documented in that mini series with Oscar Isaac, Show Me a Hero, which I'd recommend everybody watch.
I'll throw some video. We played some video of Oklahoma City City Council last night on Left Reckoning. That's the clip I was unable to remember last night. But the other thing we played was these folks saying, hey, I worked hard, and if you build public housing here into this community that, just happens to have been a sundown town until the Supreme Court said, you can't just, tee off on minorities after the sun goes down, and is now an exclusive suburb of Oklahoma City. And so exclusive that... So exclusive. Oh, yeah, if you have it. So exclusive that the developer, which is, I think, the tweet after this one, has to say, like, hey... I know all you homeowners want to see your property values go up, but literally nurses can't afford to live in our community that work in our hospitals.
Yeah, so and you know what's the good thing about being a homeowner, as long as you're not in a floodplain, your house is always going to go up in value. Basically always. That's because you have the privilege of owning property and everybody else is renting.
Exactly. We have all this stuff about what's causing homelessness? Is it some pathology in the homeless person?
Yeah.
Is it it's because of these people right here. Go ahead, Brad.
There was so much said tonight that was frankly embarrassing.
This woman is critical of the people we are too.
We come here because we want our privacy. We want our single family homes. And our country runs on the free market. We're not a socialist communist society that our government would shape our community according to what they want. I came to Edmond. I didn't live in Edmond proper when I first came. I lived in an apartment. And then later on, I was able to move inside Edmond proper. As you progress, so is your ability to live in a certain place. That's a free society. That is what we are. We're not a socialist society.
I know I can tell you I worked my butt off to get here. And I don't want to see anything happen here that could diminish our stock, our investment in this community as individual residents here.
But I worked long and hard over many, many years to get there. We can't afford, for a lot of us that have invested a lot of money in our homes, that's in many cases the biggest asset we have. We can't afford to have those assets depreciated on us because of what.
All right, and now, just play the second one here. This is a developer and some other council members speaking, more on our language.
I've been a builder and a developer here in town since the 80s. I would like for some of these people that are standing up and saying, we worked hard, we worked long, to come out and work an open house with us some weekend. The Parade of Homes brings in hundreds and hundreds of people, right? Nurses, teachers, they can't afford to live here. It's sad, right? We've got to do something about affordability. This isn't about giveaways. I think a lot of people think it's about giveaways. It's not. When 75% of your workforce can't live in the town they work in, that's a sad statement. So we're here, you can't come in, attitude has got to stop.
My mother raised 6 kids by herself.
We can continue. I mean, he basically makes the point that, there needs to be elitism against people who don't pay so much for their houses. And the thing is the statement that the lady in the 1776 had that was speaking too loud into the mic at the beginning,
who was apparently a regular at these kinds of meetings. I'm seeing she's her name is Connie Thayer. She's a regular at board meetings.
Great. What Connie needs to know is that actually, yes, the government, if you call it communism or not, the government, say the Supreme Court saying, hey, you can't be a sundown town and you can't be exclude non-white people from owning homes in your community. You can call it what you want. we get to do that, and that's righteous, and you can just take it. And that's the exact same thing we need to say to these homeowners about public housing. Like, you don't get to,
Yeah.
and these people are why there is homelessness problem in this country. It's because our electoral system privileges, like, it's not just gerrymandered towards Republicans on both parties, it is gerrymandered towards homeowners like this.
100%. And in fact, it is, the government has been way too much on Miss 1776's side in the past, thinking that it is a governmental priority to further the investment opportunities, or like the increase in value for these homeowner investors in at the expense of regular people being able to be a part of certain communities. It's just another way to segregate resources and to segregate communities, because the number one driver of public education in this country, which, you know, in Oklahoma, let's be real, all of these red states were trying to sap those resources to the best of their ability, for private schools, for religious schools in the form of charters and vouchers and all that. But the way that kids get quality education is often determined by property values and property taxes. And so that is what they are trying to preserve, is their supremacy over different kinds of people.
Yeah, and you know, all those guys saying I worked hard and invest in the community. Bullshit. The idea that that's about invest in the community. No, bro.
They said it already. They said we want our privacy. That's what they were saying. They want their little fiefdom.
And even when they say they invest in the community, it's because they ultimately have an eye on cashing out of that community.
Yes.
Like, how are they eventually, what are they going to sell? Because if you're worried about investing in the community, you worry about everybody there.
Yeah.
You're not just worried about how much your effing house can capture on the market when you decide you're going to flip it. So like, I
And when they
think,
talk about community, they're talking about when they go over for a glass of white wine with their neighbors and talk about how it's so annoying that there are so many black people in the area, so much crime, because
Yeah.
our investment, you know, we're in the same situation. It's going to go down. We've seen, this is the oldest trick in the book of NIMBYism from its outset.
yeah, I mean, and that's why I think, like, people who think the market is just going to solve this, your fight isn't with like leftists. It is with these folks. And you know what? Good luck. Good luck persuading them with, you know, charts about market efficiencies. Like this, the power of these people in every community, in every single state. Harvard has done a affordable housing project in every single state. Apartments that are under $1,000 a month, or like per person or whatever, they're non-existent. There's hundreds of thousands of them less in every state than there were, and guess what? There are more apartments than all the other ones in all higher rates, because the people like this and the sort of slumlord rentiers that, like, to the extent that we will build apartments, it's owned by other people who are going to, you know, underinvest in the upkeep of those and then just pull the rent money. Like, these people need to be crushed politically.
Yeah.
When I worked for the city, like, there were no more like frothing at the mouth, either like people who would call our office, the elected officials office I worked at, or community board meetings when there were discussions for either building homeless shelters or proposed like new affordable housing in certain areas in the borough that I worked in. And people would it would be some of the only calls I would get where I'd actually feel a little bit like intimidated by the people talking to me, because they would basically be like, what if I came to your house and like put a homeless shelter right next to where you lived? Like, how would you feel about it? Like that type of stuff. And same thing with the community board meetings that would be associated with that. Like, people would get like borderline violent with anyone who would have any sort of position supporting building affordable housing or building homeless shelters in those areas. So it's a real like concerted effort to like not allow any of this production to happen. But also the other worst, kind of both some of the worst calls I'd get from people were people who I would suggest that they apply to submit themselves into a housing lottery or for affordable housing like NYCHA or otherwise some public, private, or state funded housing, and they'd say, I don't meet the minimum income requirements. People were literally too poor to qualify for affordable housing.
Well, yeah,
So how the fuck is that affordable housing?
You cannot do this under capitalism. This is why I'm a socialist. Like, first of all, I want to make one point. The idea like that people would call and they'd get physically menacing to the point of like threatening violence. Like that's the raw energy of fascism to me. When you're willing to go there because of property values. But like the reason like they'd be opposed to a homeless shelter, they'd be opposed to extremely like sort of borderline luxurious public housing given away through a lottery system too. Like it's not because ultimately what that would do is it would drive down their values because people would be interested. Hey, I don't need to pay some asshole way too much money to live in something born in or built in the 1960s. The state is doing a lottery and I want to go live in one of those public apartments. But we have a system where
it undercuts their leverage.
Well, exactly. It's owned by real estate. So why would they ever do that? Why would real estate that owns all these city councils ever let it get to the point where actually public housing is desirable and not just like the bare minimum we do to like hide homeless people from these property owners?
Yeah, exactly. Left or Bereft says NIMBYs arguing their property values are more important than lower income people's lives while refusing to acknowledge that that is exactly what they're doing is so frustrating and disgusting.
Oh, yeah, and exactly. Just to continue, like to move I as somebody from a like basically a suburb that wasn't around an urban environment, to see all these people live in suburbs that are just close enough to the urban center to like take advantage of the infrastructure like Oklahoma City, but far enough away to not pay any fucking taxes, and then to watch Fox News all day and to be like, hey, what are Democrats doing in these cities? No, asshole, you and your white flight.
Well, that's not even just Oklahoma City. I mean,
it's every
city. This is where Bradley and I grew up. This is, I mean, this is the definition of bridge and tunnelers of like, we both grew up in the suburbs in New Jersey, right? And that's who killed Jordan Neely.
Yeah.
Daniel Penny was a Long Island bro. Like, I mean, this is the attitude that it engenders with people who want to, and I will repeat this line until my dying day, use the city as a frickin' theme park where they can come in and see a show and not have to see a dirty homeless person and not feel badly or threatened and then go home and then listen to their true crime podcast and read the New York Post and feel like they are safe in their little fiefdom away from the undesirables. That is the impulse that is being driven by tough on crime rhetoric. It is a tantalizing drug for a lot of white people that are very afraid of the rest of the world. But they're not the people that are actually having to bear the brunt of the real estate interests in these communities, in these urban centers. Those are the people that you see on the subway, who have no place to go, who have no ability to access health care, who have no ability to find a place to sleep at night where they aren't getting like potentially assaulted or rained on. I mean, that is the reality of urban life when it becomes all about NIMBYism. So, as we've said, an unequivocal fuck off to those kinds of people.
Yeah, I mean, it's every community, but like, remember like Jackson, Mississippi and the budget problems there. It's because of all these motherfuckers moving far enough away to evade taxes.
Yeah. Yeah, and then they're all bitching in the New York City suburbs about the repeal under Trump of the, like, it was a tax break.
Right.
I'm totally blanking on the name of it. Bradley, remember what was the tax break?
It was the rich people tax break.
For the rich person blue state tax break for homeowners.
Salt.
The salt tax deduction. I mean, sorry, maybe the one good thing Trump ever did, and it was stupid and retaliatory because it was for blue states. But like, no.
But one of the things that like, you know, moderate Democratic House members, and obviously it's bipartisan Republican House members as well, were the most like outraged and still to this day are fighting with any upcoming potential tax legislation. That's their sticking point is restoring the state and local tax deduction.
That's Gottheimer's crown jewel. Josh
Gottheimer, Mikey Sherrill, also in New Jersey, all of the Long Island area Republicans and Democrats before them. That's their bailiwick, as it were. Yeah.
Clip this shit.